Hey everybody. Okay. So, um, all right. So, I heard what, everybody was coming into the call talking about and whatnot. So here's what I want to tell you guys, to kind of help you with focusing your mind, your mindset, and just everything going forward. So you guys have all the motivation. Like you guys don't need any more motivation. You just need discipline. That's the biggest thing. So there's no point in you guys needing us to motivate you, push you any further. Like it's cool to have each other as a source of motivation, but at some point you got to focus that information that you're getting and you're taking in as motivation and use it to help you discipline yourself. So use it to help you, stick to your trading journal, stick to your plan, and be motivated towards hitting those goals. So just use it in that manner. So I'm gonna go ahead and share my screen. We're going to go over the Forex Factory calendar. We're going to talk about a couple of things that are not on the Forex Factory calendar, and we'll go from there. So yesterday, I told you the really big news that we were going to be looking forward to was the consumer confidence news, and it was bad. Like consumer confidence was just all the way off. So people were just not confident all the way around. They weren't confident about their jobs, money, the economy, the president. They weren't confident about anything. They just existing. People are like, they're on a wait to see basis. So that's never a good thing for consumer confidence, because if people feel that way in general, then that means they're less likely to spend money. They're less likely to do a lot of things that we would consider to be economic boosters. So we'll definitely be keeping an eye on the economy, personal spending, the numbers that come out at the end of the week. We'll definitely be looking at those. New home sales was also off. The forecast for new home sales yesterday was 950,000. New home sales were only 863,000. Part of that is because there isn't a lot of inventory. But on the other side of that is people aren't able to afford the homes that are out there on the market. It's really easy to say for a bank right now, especially with the way rates are set up, to just go ahead and give the money. But banks don't want to end up in the same situation that they put themselves in 2000. They don't want to end up in a situation that literally has caused Japan to be in a recession for 2 decades. But at the same time, they know that people need to be in homes, people need to have shelter, people really want houses right now. So they're trying their best to balance the whole situation. But as we said on the last Zoom call, especially when we start talking about supplies, home building materials, like the whole market all the way around is inflated. The market is inflated when you have one of the world's largest underwriters for insurance, as well as one of the largest lenders in the world, saying that the housing market is in a little, quote unquote, little bubble. When a bank says the housing market is in a little bubble, it's in a medium-sized bubble. They're just trying to downplay it. But what I see in that is, you got to do something to control this housing market. So having JP Morgan, Goldman Sachs, AIG, companies like that starting to talk about the housing market, to me, that says that we're going to start getting a shift to happen in the housing market. Lending rates are going to start changing. The criteria for lending is going to start changing, because banks are like literally the first link in the chain when it comes to, people being able to get houses, because typically people get pre-approvals and that sort of thing from a bank first, before they do anything else. So we'll definitely be following the banks, following the housing market, because they will set the precedents for the rest of the inflation. Since we know that the housing market's in a little bit of a bubble, we know that the materials for houses are in a little bit of a bubble, and like super inflated. That's just going to kind of help us to see where inflation is going to go for the rest of the year. And then yesterday evening, we got New Zealand rates. I told you guys I didn't expect it to change. It didn't change. enough said about that. Today, crude oil inventories and crude oil inventory numbers were better than expected. So we're starting to actually build up reserves. We're starting to hold on to oil a little bit, but I suspect that after the holiday, this could change because we're technically supposed to be in a full cycle now of summer blend oil. I don't think that's completely happened all over the US yet. But then after the holiday, people are going to be traveling. We'll get more people taking flights, people, just doing more car travel. And then also after the holiday, restocking of stores and then changing of inventory for the retail market. So we'll get an influx of travel, all kind of happening around the same time. So I suspect that crude oil inventories after the holiday week will drop, but then they'll start to gain in the month of June because we don't really have a true holiday in June. People just travel. Then we'll start to see the same cycle again towards the end of June. And then tomorrow, just please make sure you're aware of the GDP numbers that are coming out. I told you guys that the preliminary number is going to be the most important number. Also, you guys should be out of the market by today. So anything else that you're doing in the market should be in your demo account or just watching from the sidelines. You really shouldn't be in any more trades. So this news that's coming out tomorrow really shouldn't impact anybody on this call. So it's going to be GDP numbers, unemployment claims, durable goods, core and regular durable goods numbers, and then pending home sales are all going to be coming out towards the beginning of the market open. So just know that you have 4 very important economic numbers that are coming out right before the market opens. So an hour before the market opens, and then you have one coming out 30 minutes after, and it's pending home sales. So if pending home sales are anything like the actual home sales numbers that we got, then I suspect that they will be a little off. But considering that pending home sales is people who are actually in the market, people who have actually began the contract process of closing on a home. All of that's taken into consideration with pending home sales. And this is going to be month over month. So this will be looking at April compared to March. And the housing market since the beginning of the year has been steadily increasing as far as inventory flying off the market. So it should be good, but there again, when we look at the home numbers that we got earlier in the week, this number could be in a little bit of a slump. And then tomorrow, and then Friday, we'll be looking at the core personal consumption expenditure. And then we'll be looking at Chicago PMI. The other numbers that we'll be paying attention to as well are the personal income and personal spending, because that ties back into consumer confidence. And then I told you guys that on Friday, we'll also talk about the housing market and real estate because of the pending home sales numbers. So we'll take a look at the actual report, and then we'll also go back to the numbers that came out at the beginning of the week and put all of it together. So that's that for the Forex Factory calendar. Just so that you know, in case I don't mention it on Friday, this is a week right before NFP. So it's a week before NFP, it's a week before holiday. So just make sure that you guys are aware of all of that, because we're starting off the week coming off of holiday and going into NFP. So when you have those two things in the same week, just know that market fluctuations are going to be pretty volatile on Tuesday. And then Wednesday, you start getting the heavy news. And technically, Wednesday is when you're supposed to be out of the market. So next week will be a good week for those of you who've never been through an NFP week before. For those of you who have never traded around heavy news, knowing what to look for in the news, knowing what to hear or pay attention to in the news, on your apps, on the Forex Factory calendar. All that stuff is going to be happening for you next week. So you can start to really train your eye, train your ears towards what you need to be paying attention to, when to know, or the things you hear and like, oh, I need to get out of the market, or the things you hear and you're like, oh, okay, I need to see how the market's going to set up off of this news so that I can, make my next move accordingly. So that's that for the Forex Factory calendar. Everything else I have, it's not like super secret or super like, intensive. I can just go ahead and tell you now. So, a couple of breakthroughs have happened in the corporate world. So there was someone who typically to have a board seat with any corporation, you got to have double digits, typically about 20% or so of a stock, you're individually or a company, in order to get board seats. Well, someone that had like 0.2% of a particular stock was able to get 2 board seats. So the world of the corporation is starting to open up, so that average people can start to have their say, sit on boards. Sitting on the board for a corporation versus sitting on the board for, a independent, smaller business or a startup is a little bit different. Um, they treat you more as like a liaison, but it's still a very important thing because it's not someone who's always been on the inside. It's someone on the outside who's able to provide them with the thought process and mindset of the average everyday person. So I think that's going to be a very common and helpful link to help get people back into the workforce, or to try to help people who have strayed from the workforce to have an incentive to come back because they'll feel like they're being heard. So that's that. Jeff Bezos officially steps down as CEO of Amazon in July. So if you are a stock trader, we talked about ETFs this week on a Zoom call. So if you're in any of that stuff and it holds Amazon, I'm not telling you to get out. I'm just telling you to be vigilant and to pay attention to what's going on with your stock. Amazon will continue to have Jeff Bezos as a think tank. He will still be around. The CEO that's over their AWS is going to be taking over Amazon. He's been with the company for like a decade or so. If you've ever tried to sell anything on Amazon or use their marketplace platform, he built out that platform. So he's very well aware of, the mechanics and the things that it takes to run Amazon. So I don't have any doubts in his abilities. He's been on, several of the stockholder calls and shareholder meetings. And so he has a lot of input, has a lot of great foresight for the company. So I wouldn't worry. I just would take a look at it and make sure that you're positioning yourself properly to either, buy more, or, with stocks, it is a lot easier to hedge off of your price depending on what's going on, because the regular everyday person, they're going to get emotional. They'll start flowing with the sentiment. They'll start driving price based on, oh, Jeff Bezos is leaving. It's like the same thing that's going to happen when something happens to Warren Buffett. It's not an if, but when. And people are going to freak out because they're going to wonder like what is going to happen to Berkshire Hathaway. Same thing. But the company's still strong, still has great fundamentals. Company's not going anywhere. It's one of the biggest competitors in the world. So when you think about the fundamentals, just know if you see any drop in price, it is literally sentiment and people being fearful. But no need to fear. And let's see. If you bought the dip, congratulations. Check your crypto portfolios. And we're going to be paying attention to relations with China, Russia, the United States, and Iran going forward because of oil. President Biden has a meeting with Russia. I do not think that meeting is going to go all that well because of all the back and forth that they've had so far this year. But oil, bio attacks, and just cyber attacks, period, are going to be the topics that they talk about. And those are the reasons why we're also going to pay attention to the news with us in China and us in Iran. The nuclear program is coming back into play. You know, Korea and China have been testing and shooting missiles. We haven't heard about it yet here in the United States, but I'm pretty sure we will because it just happened over this past weekend. And what China will do when they're trying to test missiles and they don't want the US to know is like if you do like a Google Maps over China, they'll put like these artificial smoke screens over certain areas, and then they can take them away, but you'll still see residual smoke. But yeah, so they've been testing missiles again. They've been helping Iran to do so as well. So I have a sneaking suspicion that that's going to be something that drives oil prices this summer. It's also going to be something that potentially drives military back either into the Middle East or back into Korea at some point this summer. So pay attention to all that stuff. If you hear it, just know I went ahead and told you about it. If you don't hear about it, know that it's happening because they don't want you to know. Also, that's another reason why I suggested in the group chat some weeks ago that you guys learn another language or watch news in another language, because we talk about the media all the time. We know who owns the media companies here in the United States. There's only so much information you're going to find out from watching the news here in the United States. So I suggest you find a news source from Europe, from Australia, and from Japan, because they will literally cover all the other angles that you need to know about from all over the world and give you the perspective that you're not going to get here in the United States. So with that being said, I'll go ahead and turn it over to Mr. Level so that he can get started with the technicals.
Cool beans. Great information as always, Carmen. We appreciate you. You already know. Cool beans, let's jump into it. Midweek technicals. Looking back at Monday night, we was up in here. Um, I told you guys that depending on which way the dollar reacted to this structure here, um, would determine what trade setups we get for our currency pairs. We see that price broke to the downside up under the structure for a moment, um, but then it did eventually today push back up to the upside. Then we see this real aggressive candle right here, bullish candle push up. So that's a good indication that price is going to go bullish and come back up here and retest this price level that I wanted to see get retest. Um, could very well see a retest of this structure one more time. I mean, once or twice, never know. Price could come down and bounce off of here before it continues to go to the upside. But like Corman said, it's Wednesday and shouldn't be trading anymore this week anyway. So let's look at Euro USD. Had a good setup off the structure, time and price. Um, I told you guys that I wanted to see like the way these equal lows right here were so clean. That liquidity pool right there, you guys already know what I call that liquidity pool. I want to see price come down and catch that. Um, And so now with seeing the dollar push up to the upside, now we see Euro USD start to push down to the downside. If you were trading time and price this morning, we see London open up bearish. Um, and then New York opened up slightly bullish for the fake out, but then we see this just melts away right off of structure right here. Pulls right up into it and melts away, give us that bearish movement that we seen from London Open. So yeah, that was beautiful. Set up for Euro USD. Um, Same thing I told you guys for GBP USD. We see these lows here, and I want to see price come down and fill in this imbalance. And we see price giving us that good aggressive price action towards the imbalance to the downside. So see how that play out for the rest of the week. But um, time and price set up on that was beautiful as well. Um, NZD news pop, NZD USD up this morning. I think I seen somebody send it out in the Telegram group. Yeah, that's what news will do to you. Play with it if you want to. And so probably see NZD correct to come down and fill in this imbalance off the news. And probably see it come all the way down to retest this structure right here. So see how that play out for the rest of the week. Looking at silver, looking back at Monday, told you guys that I wanted to see silver come up, push to the upside, give us some bullish momentum to the upside to retest this structure. Didn't quite get there. Got real close to it though. So definitely played out like I wanted to see it. Now we see the pullback to retest the structure. And now it'll be interesting to see what silver do. I really don't care because I'm not in the market, but I will be monitoring the market to see how it plays out for the rest of the week, so I can use that information to start doing my analysis for the upcoming week. So looking at gold, looking back at Monday night, told you guys that I wanted to see gold push up, and we see we did get that push up. Getting somewhat of a correction now, pull back, and we'll probably see gold come on back down to retest structure. And then we'll have to see how price reacts when it gets to structure. So last but not least, my baby U30. Told you guys that I wanted to see U30 come down and fill in this imbalance that we have here. We see that we got that filled in twice. Beautiful opportunity there with U30. Yeah, got the fill. Then I told you guys that I wanted to see it push up once it came down and filled in the imbalance, and we did get that push up. So that's beautiful, beautiful. To start the week out with. Done for the week. But I am monitoring the markets, and if you guys want me to look at anything, I'll be more than happy to look at that for you. So now I'll start a recording and take any questions.